in here with one hand, like a monkey or something. It'll be kind of hard to hold on unless I have a very strong arm, but it will be a stronger grip if I have two of them, right? Now, if it happens that I have like 20 arms, like this, I'm really holding on to that. Okay. And it costs much more money to get a 20 tread than a 13 tread.
So it fastens that the grip is tighter, so the faster
Grip,
it
there's
makes
more things holding to it.
Okay.
Since there's more surfaces holding to the nut, whatever you're doing,
The more secure it will be.
well, the less space it will be to move around, and you can do more finer adjustments and so forth. There's advantages and disadvantages to both. These threads here, 13, there were only 13 holding to it, but more force will be dispersed among 13. So each thread would have to
Do more
withhold,
work. Yeah.
do more work than 20. It's like 20 guys pushing a car or 13 guys. Now, if 20 guys are pushing the same weight of a car, then it'll be easier on each guy, right?
It also relates
Than
to the
13.
kind
13 would have to be stronger to move that.
so it relates to the kind of tool you're using and what kind of torque you'll need.
Well, it depends what you're using for and what you're doing.
Right, okay.
Finer treads are more expensive, so not many things are made with finer treads. Most things are made with just regular coarse treads, unless you need a lot of precision and you need a lot of grip that things don't move around. And this also plays into the bolt, right? But this is not the same as the grade of the bolt. Similar, because we're talking about things holding on to the threads, but the grades and so forth are related to this, but this doesn't necessarily mean that this was going to be a higher grade or lower grade. That gets it more deeper into it, and but we won't get into that until much later.
What does the MI6 stand for again?
M16.
Oh, M16.
Yeah, M16 is a bolt that's metric. It has 16 diameter, 16 millimeters diameter. So an M12, for example, if you have a foreign car like a Honda or a Toyota car, all those bolts that are in that car are metric. So you got a 10 millimeter, a lot of 10 millimeters, a lot of 12 millimeters. It will be everywhere. So when you go buy that, if something has come off of your car and you say, oh, a fastener has come off, I need to buy a replacement, you're not going to buy a UNC type, Unified National type of bolt or American inch bolt. You're going to go buy a metric bolt, and the metric bolts start with an M. So if it's 10 millimeter, it's an M10 bolt that's going to go there. You decide how long it's going to be depending on what you're doing. But if it's an American car like a Ford or the other brands, GMC car, it's going to be in inches. So it's going to be a half inch, 1/8, 1/4 of an inch, depending on what bolt is and where it is. Okay? And now, how tight you put this, and Don, we went over this, I think you also saw it. How tight you put your tool here and you rotate this. What is that called? When you rotate, and how tight you put this bolt into a nut or location. What is that called? Starts with a T. Torque. Torque. Torque is the amount of strength, of force that you put to rotate this part so that it fastens and it holds down. So there's special torque wrenches that you use to make sure that this bolt is tightened enough into the particular area that you're doing. And the torque is basically, and I'm going to put it here, the torque is a combination of the distance to the rotation, because you're rotating this to put it in. The longer the distance, the arm, the more force that you put in there. So the definition of torque is distance times force. The force that you put in. Now the force you're putting around to fasten that, can you give me a torque wrench real quick? Is usually in pounds. How much pounds force you're putting. And the distance between here and here is either foot or inches. So it could be pound or inches and force. So pound inches or foot inches. When you're assembling something, not only you need a bolt, but you also need something else that you've probably seen when you guys assemble things. What is that little thing that goes around here like that? Before you put it into something else. Just round like that.
A washer?
A washer. So when you're assembling things, you need a washer because when you put this very tight, this might leave markings in whatever you're doing, and a washer keeps it from marking that particular area.
That's the only reason the washer exists, is to not.
Well, there's different washers, but mainly washers are so you don't damage where you're putting it. There's also washers that are split in, like they have a little split there that they use almost like a little, like a retainer to hold it down. So those are called pressure washers. There's other washers that have a little grip like this, so it doesn't unfasten. So there's different types of washers.
Isn't some like to keep the air out too? Like,
Yeah, there might be some kind of a sealing
yeah, there you go. That's
to
one.
seal things
Seal.
as far as that. So when there's washers that are called, there are flat washers, there's split lock washers. The split lock washers are the ones that I'm talking about that are split. So they're like this. They have a little opening, they have a little gap right there. So they're like that, and this is offset from each other. That type of a washer is called split. And you need to know this because you might be shown a picture, or you may need to go get one. This one is a split lock because the locks. Split lock washers.
You know, the lock split.
That's to hold it tighter so that the bolt won't come off as easy.
Okay.
That's the purpose of that. Okay? Let me show you a torque wrench. This is a Craftsman torque wrench. It's huge. Look at that. There's all kinds of sizes, but this one's pretty good, pretty long. Why do you think it's huge? So that you can put a lot of force, because the distance between here, where you're rotating, to here, and this particular torque wrench is the type of torque wrench that you will hear a click when you reach a particular measurement. So here's where you put how much force you wanna put in there. And this one is in foot-pounds, and it also has a metric measurement on the other side, which is Newton meters. So those are the units of this particular one. And you basically move this ring until the measurement that you want, and then you put this with a socket into a particular bolt, and then you tighten it, and then you hear click, click. When you hear that click, click sound, you have reached that force, at which point means that you have fastened that to that particular torque. You should not use this to disassemble things. Even though you have a reverse thing here that you can just disassemble things, most torque wrenches are not meant to disassemble things. You will use another tool to disassemble. This is mainly used
Even if
to
it
put
was,
the particular, even though it has that feature in there.
even if it was for that amount of pressure.
Yeah. You could use another one and take it out. Taking it out, it's much easier sometimes. Or
Yeah.
by when you take it out, you're not concerned about what force you use. You just gotta be greater than what it was put in, and you just do it. But you should not use a torque wrench to disassemble things. You should only use it for torquing. And you hear that click, click. That's very undistinguishable. Now there's also digital ones that will give you lights and will give you like an alarm, but those are very expensive. We're talking about like $300, $500 each. But
For a torque?
for a torque wrench, yeah, very expensive. Because I want you to imagine this. This is a good example. Thank you for saying that. Somebody has changed your tires, you know, and they didn't use the right force to put those nuts, those lug nuts, your tire can come apart. Now, would you want your tire to come apart while you're going 80 miles per hour, or you're hurrying to get to this class or an appointment? You don't want that, because if you don't have a less tire, your car could roll over and you could die and have an accident or get injured. So you don't want that to happen. So in reality, those bolts that are in your tires, they have a specification on the lug nuts, how much torque they need to be put in. And in an ideal world, they will get a torque wrench and they will go through each one of them and just go click. Oh, it's reached the torque. Click, click, click. And they wouldn't do the tire. This is the tire, and these are the bolts. You would do cross. You would tighten this, they would tighten that, and that, and that, and that. They would do a cross type of a.
So that would be the.
You would
best
not
way
go
to do it.
around like that.
You
But you
gotta
would
go
do
this.
each one of them. Yeah, you would need to cross them, and you would need to do each one of them with a torque wrench at a certain pounds per foot to make sure that that's holding in tight. Now the question is, do every tire place does that? Not necessarily. They just go with their power, power tools, and they might have or may not have a torque built into that you can set. But most of those don't have a torque measurement to tell you to do it. They just do it until they think it's tight. But when I go, I always tell them, "Are you guys going to put it to the right torque?" And then the manager hears it, or the guy, "Oh yeah, we'll do it," and then they bring a torque wrench and they actually do it. I actually saw a guy do it last time I had mine changed, and I asked him for it because I want to make sure that stays nice and tight. I don't want my tire to come off if somebody forgot to do it, or maybe one or two bolts, or didn't do it right.
So the process has to be up and down? It
Right,
can't
when
be
you tighten
side-
things out, especially a tire, you gotta do cross
Yeah, cross, yeah.
across each other.
Yeah,
Because if you
can't
do
it.
like this,
gotta do
you
it
may
cross.
not put the tire
I
evenly
didn't know that
in that
either.
hub
I didn't know that till
where
I
it
had
needs
my
to be.
car. Somebody
So
told
that's
me.
the process of doing it,
I
and we
did
can talk
it.
about assembly and how you do it, but you gotta do this bolt, that bolt, that bolt, this bolt, this bolt, that bolt. Don't go this,
Bolt to bolt.
this, on a tire. You should not do it.
Oh, sorry.
On anything round that needs to be put in. Okay?
That's interesting.
All right. We talked about the right-hand rule. When you are tightening things, and the bolts, most bolts are right threaded. That means the thread goes like this. And with your hand, with the right hand, you're moving it like this. This type of movement in something circular like this, it's called what? Clockwise, right? Like a clock. Most right threaded bolts, you have, not most, if it's right threaded bolt, you have to rotate clockwise to make that tight. And you can use you can use the right hand rule, and I'm going to show you the right hand rule so you guys understand. Some people just know the saying, what is that? Righty, tighty,
Yeah.
lefty, loosey. You can use that, but the scientific engineering way is to use your right hand. This right hand that I have, by how I move my hands, tells me where the bolt goes. If my thumb is the direction that I want the bolt to go to, so if I want this bolt to go into something, I have to rotate my hands this way, like this. Where my fingers are going, they're going this way. I'm gonna do it in red. So if I want this to go down, my thumb, this is my thumb right here, I have to rotate my fingers. I have to rotate this bolt this way, like my fingers. Which is what? Clockwise. Rotation in this direction is clockwise. So by using my right hand, it tells me which way to rotate. If I want this to go in, I gotta rotate this way, which means I gotta move the handle this way. If I wanna take this out, see my thumbs tell me out, I have to rotate my fingers the other way. I'm gonna do it in blue. This is to take out, to go out. My right hand would tell me, that's why it's called right hand tool. If I want to take this out, I have to rotate this way. My fingers will tell me which way to rotate, which means go the other way. That's the right hand rule. If you remember that, then you'll know how to put bolts anywhere, even behind you. If I want the bolt to come this way, if I'm doing something behind something, I just gotta rotate this way so they go in. Or you can remember the righty, tighty, lefty, loosey thing. But I like to use my right hand. Okay? All right. So a couple more things. Well, those are the basics of fasteners. But understanding the bolt, the diameter, how long is the length, how to read when you're going to go get a bolt, it's something that you should master and learn, because almost everything is being held either by a bolt or a screw. What's the difference between this bolt and a screw? Well, the screw is mainly used for wood, but it would not be hex head, it would be more like this, right? And it would be more like that shape. That's called sink. And then you would have more pointy to go into the wood. And then you still will have the threads, but it would be more in an angle. And then you would have either a Phillips head, which is like a cross type, or you would have a flat head, which you don't see that much anymore. But I mean, you kind of see them, but
Really?
a flat head will look with just a line, right? But the best type that I found for all those people that are doing construction, I used to use a lot of Phillips head, but they would strip out. It will wear out, and it will be able to go in. They will strip out, especially if you're using power tools. But the best one, as I found, is what is called construction star, which looks like this. Construction screws. And because it has more surfaces to grab the bit, and the bit looks like this, and it does have all the star shape in there, and it goes perfectly in there aligned. It grabs better, and you can put it in, and you can take it out, and you can put it in and take it out, and it works really good. So nowadays I don't buy Phillips type of screws anymore. These are a little bit more expensive, but this guarantees me almost always that I can put those in and take them out, and I will still be able to use that. They're very durable. This is used more for like decks and other things that you're doing. But right now, I'm using that almost for everything I need to do, especially in construction and in wood, because this doesn't get worn out. So that means I don't have to worry. If I want to take it out, it'll come out. And some of these are coated so that they're, anti-corrosion type and all kinds of things. Well, that's today's lesson on fasteners, and this could be also have a second part or a third part to get more into depth. But you need to understand, especially the bolts, if you're going to get into machining, if you're going to get into building and putting things together. These are much stronger fastener than a screw. And much better, and it's rated at a higher rating for holding things together. Any questions? All right. Thank you, guys. We'll continue next time.